Coffee is life. Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Heather and as always I'm reading with a vengeance and I hope you are as well. If you're an OG watcher, thank you so much for coming back. If you're new to my channel, very warm welcome to you. I'm so happy to have you all here. I hope everybody is doing well. If you like what you see, please consider giving that like button a boop and a subscribe would be wonderful. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the books that I am excited about that are coming out in February. Now, I decided to do this as a series a couple months ago. I think I started doing it in November. And I thought I was only going to do just 5 books. Just 5 books that I am excited, 5 new releases, and it has not worked out that way. I snuck in an extra one for December or January, I think. I can't remember which one. And then this one, I couldn't narrow it down to 5. I have 7, I believe, to talk to you about, and it started off as 10. I knew I couldn't do 10. I did narrow it down to 7, and I went back and forth, and I'm like, let's just get this down to 5. Let's get it down to 5. I couldn't do it. And then I thought to myself, why am I putting limitations? Let's just talk about all the books that I'm super excited about. I did narrow it down to that. So while there are 10 that I'm interested in at a minimum, there are actually 7 that I'm really excited about. Now you know that these 7 books that I'm going to talk about are truly, truly what I'm excited about. So I hope you are excited about them too. So let's get started. First book I'm going to talk to you about is I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai. This is a mystery thriller, which is my bread and butter. That's what I reach for. And I want to say most of these books, spoiler alert, most of these books I'm going to talk to you about are mystery thrillers. I think there's a couple of exceptions in there. I think I have some literary fiction, and I might even have a horror one. But anyways, now I have not yet read Rebecca Makkai. She is the author of The Great Believers. It's been on my TBR. I really want to get to it. I just feel like she's going to be an author that I love. It's just a matter of getting to her stuff. So I have some questions for you follows Bodhi, and she is a film professor and a podcaster. She's had some trauma in her past. I think as an adolescent, she had a family tragedy that she still deals with. And then while she was at boarding school, her roommate was murdered. The athletic trainer at the school was convicted of the crime. Now, all of this stuff is in her past, and she wants to keep it in her past. However, because she's a successful film professor and a successful podcaster, the school contacts her and wants her to teach a course. They offer her a job to teach a course. And in doing so, she ends up revisiting the case against the athletic trainer. I think his name is Omar. She starts to learn things and starts to wonder if the school was too quick to blame Omar, if the police were too quick to arrest him, if the justice system were too quick to convict him. And then she starts to kind of remember things, and she starts to wonder if she perhaps held a key to what really happened to her roommate. I think this book has a lot to do with memory and how memory works, and it doesn't quite work the way we all think it does. And I find that fascinating. I like it when it deals with a character who has a trauma in her past that she has to face and deal with. So I'm super excited for this one. I Have Some Questions for You is due out February 21st. The next book I'm excited about is On the Savage Side by Tiffany McDaniel. Now, Tiffany McDaniel is also an author. I haven't read her yet, but one of her books, Betty, is on my TBR, and I'm super excited to read that one. Now, this book is also a mystery thriller. It's based on the actual unsolved murders that happened in McDaniel's hometown, I believe, a small town in Ohio. And I believe this set of murders were of women. I think it was called the Chillicothe Six. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. She is drawing from actual unsolved murders from her hometown. But this story follows twin sisters, Arcade and Daffodil. They're super close, and they're dealing with some generational trauma as well as these murders that have taken place in their town. I was drawn to this one because I absolutely love a good story where it involves the relationship between sisters. I'm an only child, but I just absolutely love a good story that stems from sisterhood. You know, I loved The Nightingale. I loved The Vanishing Half. Those stories just draw me in. So you take a mystery thriller and then you have sisters This is going to be a good one, I think. On the Savage Side comes out February 14th. The next book I'm excited about is The Angel Maker by Alex North. Now, I have read Alex North. I read The Whisper Man, and I enjoyed it. The Angel Maker is another mystery thriller with, I think, a touch of horror involved. This one follows Katie Shaw. Katie is a young woman who, as an adult, she is still dealing with the guilt of something bad that happened to her younger brother, Chris, when she was a teenager. The guilt of that event has followed her into adulthood, and she struggles with reality. And as she's living her life, she gets a phone call saying that now her brother, who survived, I guess, that trauma from years past, he's now missing again. So he needs her again. Meanwhile, you're also following Detective Lawrence Page, and he is on the case of a professor who's been murdered just hours after he's fired his entire staff. And in investigating that case, he is led into two old cases. One, the violent attack on Chris that I mentioned before, Katie's brother, and a serial killer. So you're following these two main characters, and I imagine their stories are going to interconnect, and I am here for it. That's very similar to what he did in The Whisper Man, is he took two separate storylines and then wove them together, and I like that a lot. So I'm looking forward to this one. The Angel Maker comes out February 28th. The next book I'm excited about is Hungry Ghosts by Kevin Jared Hossein. Hungry Ghosts is historical fiction. The thing that drew me into this book is that the author is Trinidadian. Is that a word? I hope that's correct. The author is from Trinidad and Tobago. This book takes place in Trinidad as well. And I really loved Lisa Allen Agostino's The Bread the Devil Need, which I read last year. It was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. And I absolutely loved it. And it took place in Trinidad, and it was written in Trinidad Creole. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but it really, really added to the story. You find yourself immersed in the culture, and I absolutely loved it. So when I found out about this one, the author being from Trinidad, the story taking place in Trinidad, I was immediately intrigued. So this one takes place in Trinidad in the 1940s, and you're following a couple who are super, super wealthy. Their big house is kind of up on this hill, and in the shadow of this wealthy house and couple are the barracks where the poor live. So you have Dalton and Marley, who are the wealthy couple living in this house. And then you have Hans, Shweta, and their son Krishna, who are living in poverty down in the barracks in the shadow of Dalton and Marley. One day, Dalton goes missing, and Marley's safety is hanging in the balance. And Hans is asked to come and serve as a watchman for their house. And of course, he can't say no. He needs the money for his family. So as kind of the mystery of Dalton's disappearance unfolds, you start to learn why he's gone missing and the circumstances behind his disappearance. Marley and Hans's life and the two communities become intertwined, and the story goes from there. And I am fascinated by that, and I feel like it's going to be another one that I want to listen to, because I listened to The Bread the Devil Need, and it's narrated in that Creole, and I absolutely loved it. So I feel like I'm going to want to listen to this one too. Super excited. Hungry Ghost comes out February 7th. The next book I want to talk about is A Spell of Good Things by Ayobami Adebayo. Spell of Good Things is literary fiction. Adebayo is a Nigerian author, and I am drawn to this one because just last year I was introduced into Nigerian stories, specifically by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I read Americana last year. I read Notes on Grief, We Should All Be Feminists, and I just love her voice. And with Americana, you really learn the culture. It takes place in Lagos, Nigeria, and it just opened a bunch of doors for me as far as life in Nigeria and the culture there. I just love learning about different cultures, and the Nigerian one is just so rich and colorful. It really left me wanting to learn more. So A Spell of Good Things takes place in Nigeria. You're following a young man who struggles to make ends meet. He runs errands for a living. Sometimes he has to beg. And then you're following a young woman who is kind of the golden child of a wealthy family. And they meet and their worlds collide. And will romance happen? I'm not sure, but I feel this book is just about the haves and the have-nots in Nigeria, and I'm super excited for it. A Spell of Good Things comes out February 7th. The next book I want to talk about is The Porcelain Moon by Janie Chang. Here's another historical fiction. This is by a new-to-me author, but this is not a debut novel. This takes place in France in 1918 towards the end of World War I. And you're following Pauline, who runs away from her uncle's home in Paris to avoid a marriage that's being arranged for her in Shanghai. Then you're also following Camille, who lives in the French countryside, and she is trying to get away from her abusive marriage. Camille and Pauline meet. Camille offers Pauline a place to stay in her home, and they become friends. Of course, to make the story more interesting, Camille is hiding a secret from Pauline. And when Pauline finds out about it, it creates a dangerous situation that escalates. It leads them to both make a decision, a terrible decision that changes their lives forever. So this story is set against the little known history of the 140,000 Chinese who were brought to Europe as labor during World War I. It's a story about forbidden love, about identity and a sense of belonging, and what we're willing to risk for freedom. I'm super looking forward to this one. And how about this cover? Is that not beautiful? The Porcelain Moon comes out February 21st. Okay, guys, the final book that I want to talk to you about that I'm excited about, it's a little bit outside my comfort zone. Well, I wouldn't say comfort zone. It's outside of my normal reading genre. I'm going to tell you why. The book I'm talking about is The Friendship Breakup by Annie Catherine. This is a chick lit book. I'm not a huge fan of the term chick lit, women's literature, and this is a debut novel. So new author, not just to me, but to everybody. So this one follows Fallon. She's a mom, and she is, I guess, would be described as a millennial mom. She is very much into self-help. She's starting her own business, and she has her group of mom friends in the suburbs of Chicago. But she starts to realize that her best friend Beatrice is kind of giving her the slip. She's not answering her texts or her phone, or she's always busy when Fallon wants to get together. Fallon feels like Beatrice is distancing herself from Fallon, and Fallon doesn't understand why. So she starts to do things to try to win back her best friend. She hosts a party. It ends up going terribly wrong. Then she joins kind of a friendship app, and then through that she learns a secret about one of her new friends that is somewhat disturbing. And she's just kind of creating a mess of things with all good intentions. But then during all this, she comes across a letter from decades earlier that she didn't want to face back then. But reading it now, she is forced to face things, and she's realizing why things are happening between her and Beatrice in the way that they are. So pretty simple premise, but the thing that drew me to this book is it's a story about two besties. We've all had that relationship, right, where your ride or die girlfriend, and somehow life has a way sometimes of putting you on separate paths. I have a personal experience where I've had a couple of really, really good friends, and our friendship has changed, unfortunately, because, my decision to not have children versus their decision to have children. And it's not really a conscious thing. It's not like she said, oh, I've decided to have kids, so we can't be friends anymore. Or it's not like I've decided that, oh, you're going to have kids, I can't be friends with you anymore. It's not that. It's not a conscious decision. It's just your lives go on these very separate paths. I've dealt with that with more than one friend, and it's heartbreaking. So without going too deeply into that, this story kind of spoke to me because of that. I feel like it's a story about that type of dynamic between friends. And, our women friends, they're so important in our lives. So I'm really, really excited about this one. And I feel like it's really going to speak to me. on several levels. The Friendship Breakup comes out on February 7th. So that is it. Those are the books I'm super excited to come out in February. What books are you guys excited about to come out in February? I would love to hear about it, or you can just say hi down in the doodly-doo. If you guys have books that you've heard that are coming out soon, please share with me. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.